The hours passed slowly after my call to Obina. My stomach churned with anxiety, and I found myself checking the clock constantly. The children were playing in their room, oblivious to the storm brewing around them. I envied their innocence. They didn't know about the threats, the lies, or the people trying to tear us apart. They just knew they were loved, and that was what I wanted to protect. Finally, I heard the door open, and Obina stepped inside. He looked tired, his eyes weary, as though he hadn't slept in days. He glanced at me briefly before his gaze moved to the children's room, and I could see the resolve in his expression. "Are they asleep?" he asked, his voice softer now. "No, they're still playing," I replied, feeling a lump form in my throat. Obina nodded and made his way to their room. I stayed back, giving him the space he needed. He always seemed to draw strength from being with Ada and Chitty. They were his reason to keep trying, even when everything felt hopeless. He stayed in their room for a long time. I could hear their laughter, the sound of their innocent voices as they talked about their day. When he finally came out, his eyes met mine, and for the first time in a long while, I saw something besides anger. There was pain, yes, but there was also a deep sense of determination. "Sit down, Amaka," he said, gesturing to the couch. I sat, my heart pounding. He sat opposite me, his eyes fixed on mine. "I've thought a lot about everything since I found out the truth," he began. His voice steady but filled with emotion. "I've tried to make sense of it, tried to understand why you did what you did. And as much as I hate what happened, I can't change the past. But what I can do is protect our children. They are my world, Amaka. No one, not even Chief Okeke, is going to take them from me." A wave of relief washed over me, but it was mixed with fear. "He threatened me, Obina," I said, my voice trembling. "He said he would make things difficult for us if I didn't let him be part of their lives." Obina clenched his jaw, his hands balling into fists. "I know what kind of man he is. He thinks his money and power can buy anything, including our children. But I won't let that happen. I will fight him with everything I have." His words were firm, but I could see the fear in his eyes, the fear of losing the children he had raised and loved. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Obina took a deep breath, his eyes softening as he looked at me. "We need to be united, Amaka. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but for Ada and Chitty's sake, we need to stand together. We have to show Chief Okeke that we are a family, that we won't let him tear us apart." His words brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, we could protect what mattered most. "I'm so sorry, Obina," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I will do whatever it takes to make things right." He nodded, his expression softening. "We'll start by getting a lawyer. We need to be prepared for whatever he tries to do." The thought of a legal battle terrified me, but I knew he was right. Chief Okeke wasn't going to back down easily, and we had to be ready. "I'll support you in any way I can," I said, my voice trembling. Obina nodded again, then stood up. He walked over to the window, looking out at the street below. "I love those children more than anything," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I won't let anyone take them from me. Not even you, Amaka." His words were like a knife to my heart, but I knew I deserved them. I had betrayed him, broken the trust that held our family together. But now we had to put our differences aside for the sake of our children. "I understand, Obina," I said, my voice filled with regret. "I will stand by you whatever happens." He turned to face me, his eyes filled with pain but also determination. "We're doing this for them," he said, his voice firm. "And no matter what, we won't let Chief Okeke win." I nodded, wiping the tears from my eyes. For the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. We had a long road ahead of us, filled with challenges and uncertainty, but we had a purpose: to protect our children. And for that, I was willing to fight with everything I had. Obinna left shortly after, and I watched as he walked away, his shoulders heavy with the burden we both carried. As the door closed behind him, I felt a sense of resolve settle in me. I had made mistakes, terrible, unforgivable mistakes, but now I had a chance to make things right, to fight for the family I had almost lost. I walked to the children's room and peeked inside. They were fast asleep, their innocent faces at peace. I knelt beside their beds, tears streaming down my face. "I promise you," I whispered, my voice filled with emotion, "I will protect you no matter what." As I stood up and left their room, I knew that the battle was just beginning. Chief Okeke was powerful, and he wouldn't back down easily. But for Ada and Chidi, for the family I had built, I would stand my ground. Whatever it took, I would protect them from the consequences of my mistakes. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. Obinna and I tried our best to maintain a sense of normalcy, but beneath the surface, the tension was palpable. We met with a lawyer, discussed our options, and began to prepare for whatever Chief Okeke had planned. The fear of losing our children haunted me, but I was determined to fight alongside Obinna. Chief Okeke, however, was relentless. He began showing up at places where Obinna and I were, making subtle threats. He would stare at us with a cold, knowing smile, as if he held all the power. I felt the walls closing in, and Obinna's determination slowly gave way to frustration and despair. One evening, Obinna came home late, his face pale and his eyes filled with anger. He didn't say much, but I could tell something had happened. I approached him carefully, my heart heavy with worry. "What happened, Obinna?" I asked, placing my hand on his arm. He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Chief Okeke, he came to my office today. He made it clear that he's not giving up, Amaka. He threatened to destroy me, to destroy everything I love." I felt my blood run cold. Chief Okeke wasn't playing games. He was serious, and the thought of what he was capable of terrified me. "What are we going to do?" I asked, my voice trembling. Obinna shook his head, his eyes filled with pain. "I don't know, Amaka. I don't know how much more of this I can take. It's like he won't stop until he's taken everything from me." I could see the weight of it all bearing down on him. I wanted to help, to take away his pain, but I knew that my actions had brought us here. "We'll figure it out," I said, trying to sound reassuring. "We just need to stay strong for Ada and Chidi." Obinna nodded, but the look in his eyes told me he was losing hope. And that night I lay awake, my mind racing with fears of what the future held. I never imagined that things would spiral so far out of control, that my mistake would lead us down this dangerous path. Few days later, everything came crashing down. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was at home with Ada and Chidi. Obinna had gone out to run some errands, promising to be back soon. I was playing with the children, their laughter filling the room, when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw the caller ID. It was the police. I quickly answered, my voice shaking. "Hello. Is this Mrs. Amaka Obinna?" a stern voice asked. "Yes, this is she," I replied, fear creeping into my chest. "There's been an incident involving your husband. We need you to come to the station immediately." The world seemed to spin around me, my heart pounding in my ears. I grabbed the children and rushed to the station, my mind filled with every horrible possibility. I prayed silently, begging for it to be a mistake, for everything to be okay. But when I arrived at the station, I saw the expression on the officer's face, and I knew my worst fears had come true. The officer took me aside, his voice somber. "I'm very sorry, ma'am. Your husband was found dead earlier today." We have reason to believe it was not an accident. My knees gave way, and I collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down my face. The pain was unbearable, the weight of the words crushing my soul. Obinna was gone, murdered. The officer's words blurred together as he explained that they had reason to believe Chief Okeke was involved, but there wasn't enough evidence to make an arrest. I cried out in anguish, the sound echoing in the station. My children clung to me, their innocent faces filled with confusion. I held them close, my heart breaking as I realized that the one person who had fought for them, who had loved them unconditionally, was gone because of me. Days passed, and Obinna's funeral was held. The pain of losing him was unbearable, and guilt consumed me. I had destroyed everything. I had led us down a path that ended with Obinna losing his life. Chief Okeke's threats had not been empty. He had taken everything from me, just as he had promised. The worst part was seeing Ada and Chidi. They didn't understand why their father wasn't coming back, why everything had changed. I tried to comfort them, to be strong for them, but inside I was broken. I had betrayed Obinna, and now I had lost him forever. I decided to leave the city. I couldn't stay in the place that held so many memories of Obinna, the place where my betrayal had destroyed everything. I moved back to my hometown, taking Ada and Chidi with me. I knew I had to start over, to try and give my children the life that Obinna had wanted for them. But every night I lay awake, haunted by the memories of what I had done. The look in Obinna's eyes when he found out the truth, the pain in his voice as he fought to protect our children, it all replayed in my mind over and over again. I had loved Chief Okeke's money, his power, and I had let it blind me to what truly mattered. Now I was left with nothing but regret. I would never be able to make it right, never be able to undo the damage I had caused. My children had lost their father because of me, and that was a burden I would carry for the rest of my life. Betrayal can destroy even the strongest bonds, and the consequences of lies and deceit can be devastating. It is important to value love, honesty, and loyalty above material wealth, for the pursuit of fleeting pleasures can lead to irreversible loss. Trust, once broken, cannot always be repaired, and sometimes the price of betrayal is paid by those we love the most.